I still remember the feeling of walking into that massive convention center in Florida, the buzz of excitement in the air. I was only 21 at the time, but here I was, standing among some of the brightest minds in my field, ready to present my research at one of the most prestigious conferences I'd ever attended. It felt surreal. This was everything I had been working for. Months of research, late nights, and endless data analysis had finally led me here. I had my research partner with me, of course. We were a solid team, and I was glad to have someone I trusted by my side. But let's be honest, I was the one most invested in this. For me, this was all about academic growth. The opportunity to present my findings to experienced professionals, network with potential mentors, and be seen by the top names in my field. It felt like a huge step forward for my career. The trip was fully covered by our university, which was amazing. Flights, accommodation, meals, all taken care of. But with that came a packed schedule. We barely had time to breathe between presentations, panel discussions, and networking sessions. I could feel my energy draining as the days went by. Exhaustion was starting to set in, and I wasn't the only one who felt it. Everyone around me was just as overwhelmed by the constant intellectual marathon. I'd tried calling my boyfriend a few times, but between his schedule and mine, it was hard to find time for a real conversation. The calls were short, just checking in kind of things, and it left me feeling a bit disconnected. I promised myself that once I was back, we'd have all the time in the world to catch up, but it didn't make the distance any easier. By the third day of the conference, I was drained. I had learned so much, but I was ready for some quiet, some alone time. That's when my classmates started planning a trip to an amusement park nearby. They were all excited, but I just didn't have the energy to join them. I knew it would be packed, hot, and loud, and honestly, I needed a break. I told them I was staying back to relax, to recharge. I found a quiet spot in the hotel's coffee shop, sipping on a drink, trying to let my mind unwind. I hadn't realized it then, but that moment of solitude would change everything. That evening, after spending most of the day drowning in presentations and forced networking, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and restlessness. I had turned down my classmates' amusement park trip for some peace and quiet, but now, sitting alone in my hotel room, I found myself feeling lonely. The silence was unsettling. I glanced at my phone. My boyfriend hadn't texted in hours, and I didn't feel like reaching out first. I told myself he was probably busy, just like I had been. But still, the distance between us felt more obvious than ever. With a sigh, I decided to head down to the hotel coffee shop, hoping a warm latte might help me relax. The place was quiet, aside from a few other conference attendees still wearing their name badges. I ordered my drink and found a seat by the window, stirring my latte absent-mindedly as I stared out into the night. But even with the comforting hum of conversation around me, I felt disconnected, like I was just going through the motions. That's when he spoke to me. "Long day?" a deep, casual voice asked. I turned to see a guy, probably mid-20s, with an easy confidence in the way he held himself. His badge told me he was part of the conference, too, which explained why he had started a conversation so effortlessly. I nodded, offering a small smile. Exhausting. From there, our conversation flowed surprisingly well. At first, we talked about the conference, our research, the speakers we found most interesting, the parts we both secretly found boring. But soon it shifted to more personal topics. Hobbies, travel, college experiences. I found myself laughing, feeling lighter than I had all week. There was something about him, a presence, a charm that put me at ease. He had this way of making me feel like I was the most interesting person in the room, and after days of feeling drained, it was refreshing. Then, with a playful smirk, he said, "I think we've earned a drink after sitting through all of this." I chuckled, feeling bold. "I actually have a bottle in my room." He raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Is that an invitation?" I wasn't sure if it was, but I didn't stop him from following me to the elevator. As the elevator doors slid shut, a wave of uncertainty crashed over me. I could still stop this. I could make an excuse, tell him I changed my mind, walk away before anything happened. But I didn't. Instead, I glanced at him from the corner of my eye, my heart pounding at the realization of what I was doing. The air between us felt thick with unspoken tension. Neither of us said much as the numbers climbed, but I could feel the weight of his gaze on me. My breath was shallow, my hands clammy. This was impulsive, reckless, everything I wasn't. And yet, a part of me thrilled in it. When we reached my room, I swiped the key card with slightly trembling fingers, stepping inside and holding the door open for him. He followed, his presence suddenly too large in the small space. I moved toward the minibar, grateful for the distraction. "So," I said, forcing casualness into my voice, "whiskey or vodka?" "Whiskey," he said, watching me. I poured our drinks, the clink of ice against glass louder than it should have been. When I handed him his glass, our fingers brushed, just barely, but it sent a jolt through me. I pulled my hand away quickly, but the moment had already shifted. We tried to keep talking, to act as if nothing was happening, but the energy between us had changed. The pauses were longer, the glances lingered, the tension humming beneath every word. Then he reached out, a light touch on my knee, testing the waters. I should have stopped him. Instead, I looked up, meeting his gaze. He held it, steady, waiting. Then he leaned in. A shiver ran down my spine, my mind screaming that this was wrong. But my body didn't listen. His lips brushed against mine, hesitant at first, as if giving me a chance to pull away. I didn't. Instead, I kissed him back. And that was it. The dam broke. His hands were on my waist, my neck, pulling me in. Heat flooded through me, my pulse erratic as his lips traveled down my jaw, my collarbone. My fingers tangled in his hair, my body betraying every rational thought. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Not my boyfriend. Not my career. Just this. The heat between us faded, replaced by the slow return of reality. My chest still rose and fell with heavy breaths, my skin warm from where his hands had been. The room was dim, the only sound the distant hum of the hotel air conditioning. For a moment, we just lay there, neither of us speaking, our bodies tangled in the sheets. Then he moved. He sat up first, running a hand through his messy hair before swinging his legs over the side of the bed. The absence of his warmth left a strange chill on my skin. I watched in silence as he reached for his clothes, pulling them back on without hesitation. No words, no glances, just quiet efficiency. I wanted to say something, what I didn't know. Maybe to acknowledge what had just happened, or to ask if he felt as electrified by it as I had. But the words never came. I just lay there, the adrenaline still thrumming in my veins, staring at the ceiling. When he finally turned to look at me, his expression was unreadable. "Well," he exhaled, buttoning his shirt. "That was something." I nodded, a small smirk tugging at my lips. "Yeah." Another moment of silence stretched between us before he moved toward the door. I didn't ask for his number. He didn't ask for mine. We both knew this was meant to stay in this room, in this night, in this moment. With one last glance over his shoulder, he was gone. And suddenly the room felt too empty, too quiet, too still. I exhaled slowly, sitting up, letting the reality sink in. I had done it. I had crossed the line. And yet, as I reached for my phone on the nightstand, I felt nothing. No guilt. No regret. Just a strange, calm emptiness. The screen lit up with notifications. A message from my roommate. "Hey, I'm on my way back. Be there in 10. And another from my boyfriend. "Can we talk?" I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. A part of me expected to feel something, shame, panic, remorse. Instead, I smiled faintly, stretching my sore limbs before typing back to my boyfriend. "Of course, babe. Miss you." I sat up, still wrapped in the sheets, my body humming with the remnants of what had just happened. The air in the room felt different now, thicker, heavier, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the secret I could never speak aloud. With a deep breath, I ran my fingers through my hair, smoothing out the tangles. I stood up, letting the sheets slip away, and walked to the bathroom. The mirror reflected a version of me that felt the same, yet irrevocably changed. My skin was flushed, my lips slightly swollen. I turned on the faucet, splashing cold water on my face, hoping it would wash away the lingering heat, the evidence of my betrayal. But nothing could erase it. Not that I wanted it to. I reached for my phone and stared at my boyfriend's name on the screen. My heart didn't race. There was no pit in my stomach. Just a quiet certainty that I would answer this call like I always did, as if nothing had happened. As if the last hour hadn't redefined something within me. I hit the call button, and brought the phone to my ear. "Hey, babe." His voice was warm, familiar. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone light. His face appeared on the screen, his eyes lighting up when he saw me. "You look beautiful." I smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Do I?" "Yeah," he chuckled. "I miss you. How was your day?" I let out a soft sigh, leaning back against the pillows. "Exhausting. The conference was non-stop, but I learned a lot." That wasn't a lie. I had learned something, just not in a way he would ever know. He went on, talking about his day, oblivious to the way my fingers traced absent patterns on the sheets, the same sheets I had just shared with another man. I responded when needed, my voice smooth, practiced. Effortless. Deep down, I knew this night would never leave me. Not because of love, not because it meant anything more than a fleeting moment, but because of what it represented. A boundary crossed, a secret sealed, a thrill unlike anything I had ever known. I would never tell a soul, but I would never forget. This is Evelyn, and this story was sent to me by a subscriber who wished to remain anonymous. Some secrets are never meant to be told, and some mistakes will forever stay buried.